Finally, after a long time, Emoat was reunited with his brother. He was so happy that he started showing off some of the new tricks he had learned. After flying up and down together, the two brothers shared a hug and a fist bump. But then the moment came when Emoat had to leave. His brother understood, but he had one last question. He wanted to know exactly how he had lost his life. Deeply heartbroken, Emoat recounted the story, telling him they had been ambushed and that he had been shot in the back while trying to save Spider. Hearing this, Emoat's brother felt no resentment toward his younger brother. He understood exactly what had happened. He told Emoat that it was something that just had to happen, so Emoat needed to forgive himself. He gave his brother one last hug and said goodbye. Despite everything Emoat was feeling, he missed his brother terribly, and that guilt would become his heaviest burden. Back on the ground, Spider and Kiri were waiting for him. Emoat joked with Kiri, but the reality was heavy. She couldn't connect with her ancestors because doing so might actually kill her. Because of that danger, her family had strictly forbidden her from connecting. Spider joked with her about how there's an eclipse every single day on Pandora. During these specific hours of the day, Neytiri mourns the loss of her son, singing her song and praying with the hope that her son's soul can finally find peace. Jake, on the other hand, has a completely different way of dealing with his grief. He's been scavenging weapons from the old ship from the previous movie. Both Emoat and his girlfriend went with him, searching for any useful gear to bring back to his father. While searching, they actually found Neytiri's bow. Emoat handed it to his father, but Jake said it would be better to just throw it away because if Emoat's mother saw it, she would be furious. Still, Emoat decided to hide it. When they arrived back, Ronald scolded her daughter, demanding to know what she was doing with them. Meanwhile, Spider began teaching the people how to use these human weapons. Jake did the same, explaining to Tanawari how they could utilize them. These weapons were incredibly effective, capable of causing massive casualties and being extremely useful in battle, but there was a major catch. The people had their own customs. Their tribe was not allowed to use metal weapons, and the white man's weapons were strictly forbidden. They believed these weapons would corrupt the soul. Ronald also scolded Jake, telling him that instead of hunting for guns, he should be with his wife, helping her through her pain and being a better partner. But Jake was doing everything he could to stay by her side and help her. They wanted revenge. A war was coming, but Jake felt that the old ways weren't enough. With just bows and arrows they wouldn't win, but with these high-tech weapons they actually stood a chance. Tanawari responded by saying that if Jake wanted to win this war, he had to become Torik Makto again. But Jake refused. He knew that if Torik Makto returned, it would lead to absolute chaos. He explained that when he connects with that creature, his entire psyche shifts. He becomes consumed by the need to destroy his enemies. If he went back to being that person, everything would turn into a total mess. At that point, Tanawari told him to give up the weapons and continue facing his pain. In the meantime, Quaritch was obsessed with finding Jake, so he decided to go on a small mission. He was brought in specifically to finish the job. He might have failed before, but he was ready to fix his mistakes. That night, Emoat gave the bow to Ronald. She told him she understood and promised to support him in everything. The next day, Jake told Neytiri that sooner or later, they would be back at war. Because of this, he had crafted a special arrow just for her. However, Neytiri refused it and broke the arrow right in front of him. Jake finally snapped, venting his anger and saying he wanted revenge. Furthermore, he admitted it was frustrating that she spent every hour of every day praying. He told her she should be with her family, but Neytiri stopped him. Through tears, she told him he had no idea how she felt. She had lost her father, her son, and was no longer with her tribe. Now, the only thing she had left was her devotion to the great Iwa. She truly believed that Iwa would protect them. Jake apologized and held her close. While they were grieving, Spider, Emoat, and Tanawari's children were spending time with Payakan. The Tulkun spoke about whatever had happened to Emoat's brother. Later, while they were sleeping, Spider's mask ran out of oxygen. Everyone rushed to find a replacement for him, and the only person who stood back and stayed out of it was Neytiri. Finally, they managed to save him. But Jake couldn't help but notice his wife's cold attitude. Once they were safe, traders from the sky arrived at the village, and the younger generation went out to welcome them. Meanwhile, Jake approached the clan leader with a small favor. He wanted him to take Spider to the Omaticea people. Afterward, Jake gathered his family to break the news about what they were going to do. As the leader of the family, Jake made this tough decision for their own good. He explained that the humans would be returning soon, and more than that, Spider had become a burden. At any moment, his oxygen could run out, and he would lose his life. So, for his own safety, he had to go back to be with his own kind. Spider desperately pleaded, saying he was a part of this family and didn't want to be separated. Kiri, Spider, and Emoet were all furious with their father. Emoet even looked him in the eye and boldly said that he had already lost one brother and wasn't about to lose another. With no other choice, Jake came up with a different plan. The whole family would fly out with the Wind Tribe, and they would leave Spider with the Omaticea then. That way, they would have one last family trip together. When speaking with the leader, Jake asked to join them. He argued that they would be much safer having them along in case any hunters or thieves tried to attack. After all, he is Torik Makto. The leader of the Wind Tribe accepted, realizing that their companionship would be a huge benefit. Furthermore, they agreed to look the other way and let them go. At night, while the adults were out on patrol, the kids were just playing around. Even though he missed his brother terribly, Emoet kept practicing his aerial maneuvers, feeling that in these heights, he could truly connect with his brother's spirit. However, Jake remained distant. Emoet eventually asked his father for a rifle. He already knew how to use one and was ready to fight. But when Jake asked where his comms unit was, Emoet lied. Instead of his radio, he was actually carrying Cyria's necklace. He tried to apologize, but Jake treated him poorly. By the time Jake realized he should apologize back, it was too late. His son had already walked away. In another location, Querich's crew alerted him to some recent footage. Not far from there, they spotted the Wind Tribe with Spider in their company, so they moved in to capture him. Right at that moment, the Ash people appeared out of nowhere and ambushed the mercenaries. Jake ordered Emoet to stay and look after the family while he went to hold off the enemy. But Emoet didn't listen. He went off to find his rifle but realized he had forgotten his comms. By the time he wanted to turn back, it was too late. In a desperate attempt to prove his worth, he ended up losing his Ikrin. Because of this mistake, his sisters almost lost their lives. But surprisingly, the mercenaries protected them. Barong, the female leader of the Ash people, saw everything. She ordered a suicide attacker to deal with one of the soldiers, who barely escaped with his life. During the chaos, Barong severely wounded Neytiri. She tried to hold on, but she didn't have the strength and fell from her banshee. Jake tried to contact the family, but no one answered. The children barely managed to escape, while the Wind Tribe wasn't as lucky. Kiri's Ikrin was badly injured, and as they went down, they had no choice but to leave it behind. Kiri apologized to the creature, but the nightmare wasn't over. Spider's mask was running out of oxygen, and they had to get back to the ship for a replacement. That's when they unexpectedly discovered Barong doing something truly horrific. She was cutting off the tails of the Nausicaa. By doing this, she was ensuring they would never find eternal peace or be able to return to Iwa. Suddenly, one of the attackers noticed the children and began to hunt them down. Emoet managed to take them out. When he stopped, he looked at the bodies and was stunned by both the usefulness and the deadly destruction of firearms. Seeing this, Barong ordered her people to chase the children. Their only way out was to jump into the water. Tuk was terrified, but Emoet reminded her of their family rules, the things their father always used to say. Meanwhile, Neytiri's banshee finally located its master, while the children made it to safety. But Spider's oxygen was almost gone. With no other options, they had to turn back. Emoet hated being the one in charge because he didn't know what to do in a situation like this. But despite his fear, they were going back. Just as Jake finally finds Spider's mask, Querich intercepts him. Despite being wounded, Neytiri manages to scramble onto her banshee and makes a desperate escape. Even though Jake absolutely despises Querich, he's forced to admit that Spider is in grave danger. The kid's mask is almost out of oxygen, and they have to go back to save him immediately. Querich actually agrees to help, and Jake takes the lead to show the way. But when Jake asks to be released, Querich refuses to let him go. By this point, Spider is completely exhausted, so Emoet carries him on his back. Meanwhile, Neytiri has to literally tie herself to her Ikrin just to keep from falling off. Right at that moment, wood sprites, the seeds of the sacred tree, start floating all around them. Ignoring all the risks, Kiri taps into her spiritual powers and connects with Iwa. She places one of these seeds into Spider's mouth, and incredibly, the boy is suddenly able to breathe the Pandoran air. The plant has formed a symbiotic bond with his body, helping him adapt to the environment. When Spider wakes up, nobody there can wrap their heads around how this is even possible. Spider thinks he's already dead, and he's just overjoyed that he can finally breathe on his own. But that joy is short-lived. A hail of arrows suddenly rains down on them. The Ash people have surrounded the group and taken them prisoner. Barong is immediately curious about the white boy. When she spots Emoet's gun, she demands to know how to use it. That's exactly when Querich and Jake arrive on the scene. Barong is shocked to see the boy breathing the air, and Kiri accidentally lets it slip that her friend is alive only because of Iwa. Barong grabs Spider and declares that if she kills him, it would simply be Iwa's will. She cuts Kiri off, making it crystal clear that she is the only one with real power here. Quaritch frees Jake while Barong is busy questioning Moet about his weapon. Jake lunges from behind and takes out several of her men. Quaritch steps in, pins Barong down, and threatens the others that if they make a move, their leader is dead. However, she catches him off guard and slams Quaritch to the ground. Surprisingly, she praises him for being so strong and resisting her. But before she finishes him off, she wants to know how to use his weapon. He gives her a step-by-step tutorial, and now that they have no more use for him, they prepare to begin their sacrificial ritual. Finally, Neytiri arrives with the Omaticea. Norm and the clan leader immediately start treating her wounds. At the same time, the Ash people are smoking some kind of herb while performing their pagan rituals. Kiri connects with the trees and uses them to take out the guards. The Ash people soon realize they've escaped and order a full-blown manhunt. The group manages to get away quickly by hiding beneath the river. While Moet is praying for his daughter's soul, Neytiri wakes up. Despite her injuries, she is determined to find her family. As they trek through a swamp, the Sully family decides to take a much-needed rest. Jake actually takes a moment to thank Quaritch for his help. But Quaritch remains cold. He tells Jake that they are still enemies and that he will be hunting him down when he least expects it. Right now, they have no mounts, no guns, no bows, just a few knives in their hands, but for this brief moment they've called a temporary truce. Even though he still hates Jake, Quaritch can't help but admit the truth. He silently thanks Jake for raising his son to be a decent person. In his eyes, Spider is a good kid. Jake just smiles at the acknowledgement. He explains that even though he's living in a new body now, he has no intention of forcing his life to change, because he's already a different man. He had a chance to be a better version of himself, but he doesn't want to change. He admits he hates the Gnostics and simply accepts that people like him just don't change. At dawn, the shrieks of banshees put them on high alert. They try to make a run for it, but it turns out to be the Omaticea coming to the rescue. Quaritch slips away, and Neytiri finally reunites with her family. But everyone is absolutely stunned to see Spider breathing on his own. Meanwhile, Norm can hardly believe this is happening. When they finally return to base, the grandchildren rush to hug their grandmother. And it's revealed that Parker has officially returned to Pandora. After a series of intense studies, Norm discovers that the symbiosis Spider possesses is actually what saved his life. On the surface, he's just a normal, healthy boy with no issues at all. But Jake is terrified. He's worried the RDA might capture Spider just to figure out the secret to surviving on Pandora. If they ever find out, everyone is in deep trouble. But that's not even the craziest part. Spider is actually starting to grow a tail. While staying with her grandmother, Kiri connects with the spirit tree. She desperately pleads for the great Iwa's help, wanting to know who she truly is and why Iwa won't listen to her. Suddenly, she suffers a seizure. Once she feels a bit better, her family and Norm sit her down to tell her the truth. She has no biological father, and she isn't a clone. They explain that when her mother was dying, they begged Iwa to save her. A miracle happened. Iwa caused her mother to become pregnant, and that is exactly why she is so different. Her family tries to comfort her, telling her that no matter what, they love her unconditionally. While Spider is undergoing his checkups, Neytiri pulls Jake aside and tells him they must end Spider's life. In her mind, he has become a direct danger to Pandora. After gathering some Tulkun blood, the group heads back to the Water Tribe. Tanawari informs Jake that a massive meeting with the other Tulkun is coming up soon. They are going to put Payakan on trial. Despite everything, Ronald is still extremely uncomfortable with Spider's presence. Even when Neytiri offers her help with healing, Ronald shuts her down, calling her medicine complete trash. Ronald remarks that if they were back with the Omaticea, she might be healed in a week, but for now, she just has to deal with what they have. The two women get into a heated argument. That night, the Tulkun began the trial. They express their deep dissatisfaction with Payakan, accusing him of spreading toxic ideas to the youth. Moet begs his father to step in and tell the Tulkun everything Payakan did for them. In the end, the verdict is harsh. Payakan is to be exiled, and no one will ever be allowed to hear his song again. Moet is absolutely livid. He yells at everyone, saying that Payakan fought for them and that he's stronger than anyone present. He demands they reconsider their decision. Jake eventually drags his son out of the meeting, calling him reckless and rude. He reminds Moet that they aren't at home and can't just impose their opinions on others. Then, Jake drops a bombshell. He tells Moet that it was his immaturity and foolishness that got his brother killed. Moet, through heavy tears, cries out that it wasn't his fault. Later, Neytiri asks her husband to talk to their son, but Jake has no idea what to do. Neytiri is still placing all the blame on Spider and wants him gone, but Jake warns her to stop. He tells her that if she keeps living with this much hatred, it will eventually destroy her. She screams that she hates humans, But Jake has to remind her that he was once one of them. Their children are hybrids. They have hands that look human, but they are different. He tells her that if she hates humans, then she essentially hates her own family. Neytiri breaks down crying, and Jake apologizes to her. In the distance, Moet grabs his rifle, looking like he's about to do something reckless, but he stops himself. His sister and girlfriend manage to talk him out of it, reminding him how important he is. They eventually get rid of his mother's bow, and over the next few days they work on repairing it, while Spider finally succeeds in riding his very first creature. Desperate for answers, Quaritch and his men are busy torturing another tribe to find his son. Not knowing what else to do, Quaritch comes up with a new plan. He's heading to the Ash People. They live in an ancient forest that has been completely burned to the ground. As soon as he arrives, the villagers beat him down. Barong emerges from her tent and offers him a tribute. But once she gets what she wants, she plans to kill him. However, Quaritch has a better idea. He orders Lyle to fire a warning shot into the air and warns her that the next bullet is going straight into her head. Seeing his leverage, she invites him into her tent. Since he showed some goodwill, she blows a mysterious, magical powder into his face. Quaritch has never tried anything this powerful before. It hits him hard. Under the influence of the substance, Barong recounts her tragic past. When she was a child, a massive volcano erupted, spewing a toxic liquid that burned her entire city to ash. She had prayed to Iwa, but there was never an answer. Instead, she came to a chilling realization. Iwa was not all-powerful. Sometime later, she discovered the true power of fire, and now, she knows exactly how to wield it. After making a small incision, she looks at Quaritch and asks what he's really searching for. He tells her that both of them are looking for the same thing. An equal, someone just as strong, someone who can actually challenge them, someone powerful. Quaritch makes her an offer she can't refuse. He tells her that if she wants weapons, he'll provide them. If she wants the power of fire, it's hers. And if he wants to have some fun, she'll make sure he gets it. With his help, she'll be able to crush her enemies and become a truly formidable being. These words catch her off guard, and to earn her trust, he delivers everything he promised. It seems Quaritch has finally set aside his prejudices, and as a reward for his help, she invites him into her tent to give him a little gift. While the rest of the tribe connects with Iwa, Spider begins to question his own fate. He wonders if, when he dies, he'll actually be able to join them, or if it will simply be nothingness. Kiri says it's possible, but she's not entirely sure. Despite her lingering wounds, Neytiri refuses to stop training. Meanwhile, Cyria learns that Payakan has been officially exiled, so Moet decides he's going to find him. But before he sets off, his mother approaches him and hands him her very own bow. She asks where he's going, but he only tells her he'll be back soon. With that, Moet heads out to find Payakan. Tanawari's children follow him and later report back to Jake about what happened. Jake knows they'll have to return sooner or later, so he decides to wait and trust the process. Neytiri wants to go after her son, but they follow Tanawari's advice and decide to wait. In the meantime, Moet has to navigate a violent sea to search for Payakan. Not far away, Quaritch and his scheming girlfriend are busy torturing another tribe. At the same time, Kiri is out collecting water when she runs into Spider. He's surprised to see her, but as they are heading home, the Ash People find them. Spider screams for Kiri to run, and Quaritch, along with his men, successfully captures him. They take him straight to the RDA, and from a distance, Jake sees the ships flying toward the city. He knows it's time to find cover. Kiri rushes back and tells her father that Spider has been taken. Quaritch leaves Spider behind and leads the Ash People toward the coast. Both Tanawari and Ronald order their people to be on high alert. When they reach the beach, Quaritch demands that Jake surrender. But before stepping forward, Jake makes Neytiri promise not to fight or do anything at all. He tells her she has to let him go, because if she intervenes, the RDA will finish all of them off. To stay safe, they have to stay out of it. When no answer comes, the Water Tribe is ready for war. Quaritch begins burning down houses, forcing Jake to surrender and beg his people not to fight. He doesn't want any more blood on his hands. But Quaritch isn't satisfied. He wants Neytiri to surrender too. Barong openly demands Neytiri's heart. But eventually, they reach a deal. To avoid a massive bloodbath, they decide to only take Jake prisoner. Neytiri desperately wants to kill Quaritch, but in the end, she holds back and is forced to watch as the RDA takes her husband away. To avoid detection on their way back, the Ash People use trailers to enter the base. Finally, the workers and soldiers are absolutely stunned to see that Quaritch has actually captured the legendary Jake Sully. Barong orders her people to stand tall and show no weakness. On the other hand, Spider is taken away to be studied. A female colonel steps down from her vehicle and demands to know what Quaritch is doing with these dirty natives. She doesn't want them anywhere near the base, but Quaritch tells her she needs to give them credit for the win. He points out that they should all be celebrating because they finally have Jake Sully. The colonel threatens to fire him and throw him in jail, but Quaritch tells her not to be stupid and to just enjoy the moment. She eventually agrees, and Spider is taken away to undergo a series of tests. While Moat is out searching for Payakan, his friends eventually track him down. But just as they reunite, they come face to face with a pod of vicious squid, deadly creatures that will kill you the second they lock eyes with you. Thankfully, the Tulkuns arrive just in time to save their lives. Once the dust settles, Moat thanks everyone for being there, but they simply remind him that they are friends, and no matter what happens, they'll always have each other's backs. Back at the RDA base, Quaritch tries to have a heart-to-heart with his son. Spider refuses to see him as a father, calling him out for being nothing more than a clone, not the real man. Surprisingly, Quaritch agrees. He admits he's been through a lot, both good and bad, but despite that, he insists that he loves the boy, and so did his mother, who died in battle. Before they part ways, Spider asks for Quaritch's dog tags, and Quaritch gives them to him. Out at sea, Moat finally reunites with Payakan, and through him, he finds the sole survivor of a slaughtered clan, a Tulkun named Tanik, who is blind and covered in scars. The situation is getting dire because the Tulkun hunting season is about to begin. The RDA is planning to capture every Tulkun they can find, turning a whole year's worth of profit into just 1 week. A biologist on staff protests, calling the mission unforgivable, but he's completely ignored. The hunt is moving forward. Meanwhile, Jake is stuck in a holding cell. Quaritch visits him to deliver some good news. Jake is scheduled for execution at 6 a.m., and it'll be a respectful death by firing squad. Despite the circumstances, Jake tries one last time to reach Quaritch, telling him it's time to start seeing the world through different eyes. Quaritch ignores the plea and walks away, saying he'll see him at dawn. Ignoring Jake's earlier warning to stay out of it, Neytiri arms herself with bomb arrows and decides to infiltrate the RDA camp. At the same time, Spider uses his father's dog tags to slip past security and escape. Neytiri takes out the native guards, hijacks their trailer, and charges into the base. In the chaos, Ian steals a tank while Spider disguises himself as a mechanic to blend in. Neytiri storms into the Ash People's camp and corners Barong in her tent. She demands to know where her husband is, threatening to cut off Barang's hair if she screams. But for a split second, Neytiri loses focus, and Barong seizes the opportunity to strike back. Even so, Neytiri manages to escape, using her explosive arrows to turn the entire base into a zone of absolute chaos. The Ash People hunt her down, but thanks to her superior agility as a Nausix, she manages to lose them. Suddenly, the biologist appears in an excavator. He uses the heavy machinery to tear open Jake's cell and help him escape. Once they are in a slightly safer spot, he introduces himself. Jake thanks him, acknowledging his incredible work with the Nausix, but they're still trapped. Just as a ship corners them, the biologist makes a run for it. To save Jake's life, Spider jumps in front of him, acting as a human shield. The female general wants to wipe them both out right then and there, and although Quaritch tries to stop her, they are already in the crosshairs. Luckily, Neytiri swoops in, attacks the ship, and saves her husband. Jake is so relieved to see her that he tells her he doesn't know whether to kiss her or scream at her. On the way home, the group decides to stop and rest. While Spider goes off to find some privacy, a dark change comes over Jake. He turns to Neytiri and tells her that she was right all along. Letting Spider live was a mistake. He realizes that if the RDA ever catches the boy again, all of Pandora and all the Nausix will be in danger. He asks Neytiri for her knife so he can end it once and for all. Ironically, Neytiri is the one who begs him to reconsider. She reminds him that the boy just saved his life, but Jake won't listen. He tells Spider to come with him for a walk. Neytiri stands there, stunned and paralyzed, not knowing what to do. Jake leads Spider to a secluded spot, and as they walk, Neytiri is consumed by regret. Jake orders Spider to get down on his knees and look straight ahead. He tells the boy that as long as he's alive, he's a threat to everyone they love. Jake apologizes, knowing in his heart that what he's doing is wrong. Back at the camp, Neytiri changes her mind and rushes out to stop him. But before the blade can fall, Spider looks up at Jake and asks one final, heartbreaking question. Did you ever love me? Jake looks him in the eye and tells him the truth. Yes, he loves him just like his own son. At the very last second, instead of striking, he drops the knife and pulls Spider into a powerful hug. Neytiri finds them and realizes then and there, they are a strong family, and they will do whatever it takes to make sure they don't lose another member. Knowing that a massive war is on the horizon, Jake realizes that Torek Makto must return. He goes to visit the great beast. According to Moet, Torek has always loved his father and was waiting for the day they would reunite, because when they are together, they are absolutely invincible. A moment later, the legend is reborn. Torek Makto is back. Jake calls on Tanawari and all the people to rise up. He knows he must unite all the tribes, from the skies to the deepest parts of the ocean. They gather with the tribes from the first film, knowing that warships are already moving across the sea. Jake tries to reason with the Tulkun mother, telling her that war is coming and they need to stand together as one clan. But just as he's speaking, Emoat and Payakan return. Tanawari snaps at them, saying they have no voice here and that Payakan is still in exile. But Emoat and his siblings refuse to back down, accepting the same fate as their friend. They claim that the great Iwa has granted them the right to speak. Emoat argues that despite Payakan's past mistakes, he fought for his kind. He warns them that the white apes are coming to slaughter the Tulkun, and he calls for Tanak to step forward. Tanak, the scarred and blind survivor, speaks of the terror and pain he endured. It's a haunting story, and finally, the Tulkun have their answer. Meanwhile, the whalers are plotting their hunt for the next day. They plan to trap the Tulkun and simply wipe them all out. Quaritch, now dressed in native gear, asks why he wasn't invited, but he's told he's no longer part of the inner circle. He's being treated as a failure and is essentially a prisoner, set to be locked up with the other natives. Elsewhere, Ronal is in the final stages of her pregnancy, and she places her hope in the Sully family to finish the job. Before heading out, Emoat says goodbye to his mother. Jake finally shows his trust in his son by handing him his own rifle, charging him with the protection of the family. He tells Emoat that if things go south, he must escape and hide in the forest. The tribes have arrived, and so has the RDA. In the middle of the ocean, a massive gravity rift opens up, sucking in everything it touches, a deadly obstacle they have to navigate. The RDA deploys its fleet, and the lead whaler tells his men to stay sharp because Jake Sully hasn't shown his face yet. Suddenly, the Tulkun erupt from beneath the waves. The great Tulkun mother demands to lead the charge, and she begins absolutely annihilating the ships and the soldiers on board. Jake gives the order, and the rest of the warriors attack from both the air and the sea. Torek Makto starts ripping apart the aircraft while Tanawari's warriors finish off the soldiers. Just when it looks like they have the upper hand, the Ash people storm onto the battlefield. They start mercilessly slaughtering everyone in sight. At that exact moment, an eclipse begins, and darkness falls as people start to drop one by one. It's an unprecedented tragedy. Kiri wants to help, even if it costs her life, so she decides to connect with the great Iwa. As soldiers sweep through the area, Spider stays behind to be her shield, while Emoat and Payakan take out several enemies. Deep in the spirit world, Kiri pleads for help, but she is rejected once again. Spider tries to help her stay connected while the soldiers manage to kill another Tulkun. Up in the air, a brutal dogfight breaks out between Barong and Neytiri. In the spiritual realm, the face of Iwa finally appears. Before the connection is severed, Kiri begs her, crying out that her people are dying and they desperately need her help. The battle turns for the worse. Out of ammo, Neytiri tries to finish off Barong, but the Ash leader pulls out a flamethrower. Neytiri's Banshee is badly wounded, and tragically, Ronal is struck by an arrow. But the biggest blow comes when Torek Makto is defeated and plunges into the sea. Jake is weakened, suffering from a serious leg injury, and Payakan is wounded as well. Finally, Jake is forced to accept the bitter truth. They've lost. They're out of options. But then, a literal miracle happens. Iwa reaches out to help Kiri, while Emoat manages to pull his father to safety. Despite her own injuries, Neytiri steps up to help Ronal give birth. Ronal is hanging on by a thread, refusing to die until she can see her son's face. Meanwhile, Jake pulls the arrow from his wound. When Spider rushes back to find Kiri, he's relieved to see she's okay. Against all odds, Ronal successfully gives birth. She looks at her newborn son, gives him a name, and then she passes away. Realizing the weight of his own mistakes, Jake finally apologizes to Emoat. He admits he pushed him too hard and that he was wrong to put that kind of pressure on him. From the depths of the ocean, the great Tulkun mother saves Payakan. But the nightmare isn't over. Quaritch is back on the attack. Despite the massive losses, the lead whaler is still obsessed with the mission, refusing to stop until he's extracted every drop of the Tulkun fluid. His crew asks if he's sure, and his answer is a cold yes. He wants to squeeze every bit of profit out of this chaos. At the same time, Quaritch corners Neytiri, taking her bow as a trophy and threatening to take her prisoner. He calls out to Jake, demanding he surrender along with Spider, or he'll execute his wife right then and there. He tells Jake he better believe him, because his new girlfriend is dying to see it happen. The military continues its slaughter of the Tulkun. But just as the extraction process is about to start, Iwa issues a divine command to every living, sentient creature on Pandora to join the war. Before the final charge, Kiri commands a swarm of octopuses to annihilate the humans. Despite his wounds, Toruk Makto spreads his wings once more, leading a swarm of Ikran to tear the enemy apart. The main ship begins to sink. Payakan finds the lead whaler and lets Tanak take his revenge for everything that was done to their kind. The Sully family reaches the ship, and the final showdown begins. They have a plan. Moat provides long-range support, Spider acts as the bait by surrendering, Kiri provides backup, and Jake is the heavy hitter. As Quaritch grabs his son, Jake manages to take out several soldiers, allowing Neytiri to break free. Barong tries to finish Jake off, but Kiri uses her powers to mentally torture her, forcing her to flee. Quaritch makes a break for it, and Jake is right on his heels. They end up in a brutal hand-to-hand brawl inside a gravity rift. No weapons, just raw strength. The ships are being pulverized. Barong escapes, and the Sully family follows suit. In the heat of the fight, Spider actually fires a shot at his father's hand, warning him that if he moves, he'll take him out. As the two fathers fight, Spider almost plunges into the void, and incredibly, both fathers move to save him. Quaritch claims he's a changed man, that he can be better. Jake gives him that one chance, but as Neytiri and the others close in, Quaritch makes one last move and dives into the abyss. Is he dead? Maybe. But in this world, if there's nobody, he isn't gone for good. Despite the heavy losses, the Sully family is finally reunited. The eclipse ends, and a new dawn begins. After the battle, the entire tribe connects to the spirit tree, and Spider joins them. In the spirit world, the fallen are waiting for him. He sees Tsute, Neytiri's father Itukin, her sister Silwanin, Ronald, Dr. Grace, and, of course, Nedium. Kiri introduces Spider to her mother, and now, even in death, Spider will finally be part of this community, reunited with them forever. And that brings us to the end of this epic journey. Don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming movie recaps. See you in the next one.